Henrik, this is the Global Digest think tank group, and you are our guest today. Please, Henrik.
Absolutely, John. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your show. I'm very glad to be here. With regards to my expertise, I run a website here in Norway dedicated to international geopolitics called Geopolitica.no, and we have partnerships with various different publications and think tanks across Europe, trying to forge a European community of scholars, geopolitical scholars. And so far, we started 1 year ago. Before that, I did um, foreign affairs journalism. So far, it has gone very well. We have partnered up with France's leading publication on realism and geopolitics called Revue Conflit, and we're trying to do our best to digest and to you know to make these very complicated issues digestible for the general public. That's our mission here, to make geopolitics, which is a very, let's say, complicated field with a lot of different variables, to try to make
Right.
it, dumb it down a little bit so it will be more accessible to the general public.
What is current situation in Norway and Europe? Mainly, you are covering geopolitical issue at the moment.
Well, the war in Ukraine takes up a lot of space. It's like sort of a very pivotal moment for Europe and the Western alliance. And of course, the re-emergence of Trump 2.0 is also an issue of great concern here in Europe, especially coming from the northern region, Nordic countries, being close to Denmark, having long cultural affiliations with Denmark. All the controversies around Greenland and these kind of things, it's very hard for us to plan properly ahead with this kind of with a person which is so unpredictable in the White House, and it's a source of great concern. And especially with regards to the war in Ukraine, we are all fearing that the United States will force through some sort of unfavorable peace treaty just because Mr. Trump wants to live up to his election promise of concluding a peace deal within 100 days. And we all want peace in Ukraine, but we want a just peace, and that can't be forced through, can't be done in such simple terms as Trump is laying out. I'm not affiliated with any party. My goal is just to spread the education, or to try to teach people about geopolitics, and because in this part of the world, in Norway, people have a tendency to be very idealistic and universal in their view of the world. And as things have progressed, let's say, over the last 20 years, it's obvious that this kind of world vision we have here in Norway, it's no longer relevant. So it's important to try to teach people about the new system in which we're entering. But there's a cognitive dissonance there. People either they don't want to learn, or they refuse to learn, or they believe that what we're saying is not correct. But I think time is on our side, and slowly but surely we will convince the general public, but one person at a time, let's say, 1 week at a time, because we are newly started, but we have done very well so far. So we are positive with regards to the future.
Right, right. I mean, Norway is a very close ally with USA, compared to many European countries. I think Norway is much closer with US, right?
Absolutely. Actually, during the great emigration from Europe to the United States during the 1800s, half of the population of Norway actually emigrated to the United States. So there's actually more Norwegians in the United States than there are in Norway. So we have a very, very close relationship with the United States, and we have been having great relations. As you said, we're among one of the United States' closest allies in Europe. And we are very dependent upon the United States for our defense and our security, especially in our northern region, Arctic region, where we border Russia. But we are very worried about what's going on there now, and we are trying to build more resilience into the system. So we're trying to just without making it a self-fulfilling prophecy, we're trying to prepare ourselves for the worst while hoping for the best with regards to how committed the United States will remain to Europe's security, and of course Norway's security in the medium to long term.
So how is the agreement between Norway and USA about security agreement or military agreement? Do you have any formal agreement?
Yes, the United States, there are many NATO bases here in dormant NATO bases here in Norway. The United States, they have we have regular exercises with the United States, first and foremost in like Arctic warfare, this kind of things, and also of course we have exercises with regards to deterring Russia. But also, Norway is a maritime nation, and we're also very much we do a lot of exercises with the U.S. Navy in the Arctic and in the Northern Atlantic Arctic Oceans. So it's a cornerstone in all of our security. It's been like that since 1949, and yeah, well, we're hoping it will last. But as I said, we have to prepare for the worst as well.
So you have NATO-based troop in Norway.
Yes, every year I think there are exercises from all over Europe and the United States and Canada. They come to do Arctic training in Norway. And now when Sweden is also entering NATO and also Finland, I think this kind of Arctic training missions or exercises will increase in scope and in scale. Actually, it will stretch all over the northern parts of the Fenno-Scandinavian peninsula, which will be this is also a very positive development for us because we have sort of moved the line. With regards to our primary foe, let's say, from the northern Norway to Finland. So this is a very positive development for us with regards to our security.
So it means American troop in Norway and they base in Norway and Norway pay for NATO membership fee.
I think I'm not too much into the details, but as far as I understood, they are paid for when they come to Norway, and they are cycled through these bases. So there are always some American forces in Norway, northern Norway, but they're regularly cycled through. So, but when they're there, the Norwegian government or Norwegian states will provide for them when it comes to everything, which is all necessities and weapons and such. I think in NATO, you pay through your how much you provide in the how much of your GDP you invest in your armed forces.
Right.
And we have been a laggard there for quite some time. I think we're at 1.5, 1.6 for quite some years. But now, as the rest of Europe, we are really getting our game together and investing big time in our defense capabilities. So I will probably reach the 2% mark within, let's say, 5 to 10 years, and we might even go to 2.5%. After that, we just have to see and wait and see.
Right.
But
Because the US is complaining last time many times because European did not pay for NATO fee very well. So now I think European countries they pay I think more than before.
Yes, we have no option because that's what is one thing which is positive about Trump. He is forcing our hand, and sometimes a hand needs to be forced because in the world of democratic politics, you always would like to please the voters, and the voters they like social spending. They don't like to move to military expenditure. But now even the voters they are agree that there is a trade-off there, and military spending has to come up even though it's implied that social spending will go down. But I think most people now in all of Europe, they are accepting this fact, this new status quo, let's say. And this is thanks to Trump, and let's hope it's part of his grand strategy of things to force our hands and then go back to, it will never go back to where it was, but let's say less confrontational approach with regards to the transatlantic alliance because it's a cornerstone of the world system since the Second World War, and I think it would be very detrimental to world security if it was to collapse. It will be felt everywhere, even including East Asia.
Right. So I hope so. Maybe Norway has no any conflict or tension with Russia at the Russian-Norwegian border or maritime border. You have any dispute with Russia?
Well, for a long time in the Barents Sea, there was an undefined border there. But I think it's 15 or 10 years ago, something around that vicinity. Norway and Russia, they came down, they sat down together, and they agreed upon a maritime border in the Barents Sea. While the land border in the north in Finnmark and Murmansk area, it's been defined for a long time, so that's never been an issue. But we had a dispute, let's say, unsettled borders with Russia, maritime borders, but that's been settled now. But as I also told my French partner, you never know with Russia. Maybe for now it's settled, but you never know. Well, they can all of a sudden come back and want to revise that line if there is some major resources found on our side or whatever. So, but for now it's settled, and we're hoping that the Russians will respect this agreement because we're all served with let's say, a cold Arctic and not the less military part where we have to put up there, the better for all of us.
So far, there is no problem with Russia. No, I think Norway security is much better than many other countries compared to Finland or Ukraine or any, eastern part of Europe.
And it's like it's within the UK's core interest as well that Norway remains a
Right.
friendly country, let's say. So it's not far over the North Sea. It's very close to the UK. So they have the Anglo-American alliance have every interest in Norway remaining a neutral or like allied country. So I think that's the reason. Even if NATO were it's for some reason to dissolve, I think they would even come to our defense just because of those things on the bilateral basis. And also you have the Arctic, which is also very important with regards to Trump and all the controversies are surrounding Greenland. Norway is also an Arctic nation. This is maybe not very known, but there's something called the Svalbard Peninsula, which is far up north, and it's under Norwegian sovereignty. It's governed according to a treaty called the Svalbard Treaty, in which the sovereignty of the peninsula or the peninsula, the archipelago, is given to Norway, but we are not allowed to put out any military hardware there. So, and it's just next to Russia, and with the Arctic warming up and becoming a geopolitical hotspot, this is becoming more and more strategic. This archipelago.
That's belong to Norway.
Norway, yes, but this is funny. It's an interesting story because it belongs to Norway, but any person in the world can basically settle there as long as that person is engaged in profitable commerce without any subsidies. So you, for example, if you found something you could do in Svalbard, you could go there and set up your business and live there. Norway couldn't stop you.
Really?
Uh, yes, so it's part of Norwegian sovereignty, but it's governed by this treaty called the Svalbard Treaty, and according to this treaty as well, Norway is not allowed to have to put any military hardware there.
I
So,
see.
but with the Arctic warming up, the U.S. is asserting itself more and more, and Russia is building up its forces. We'll see how long that will last because the
Right.
Svalbard Peninsula is sort of like an unsinkable aircraft carrier or archipelago of aircraft carriers in the Barents Sea and in the Arctic. And as the region is heating up, the ice is melting. The current status quo might be untenable. We'll just have to wait and see how the power competition shapes up between the United States on the one side and China-Russia alliance on the other, or let's say the alliance of convenience, or I wouldn't call it a full-fledged alliance, but their partnership.
So, the, related to Greenland, and it isn't if U.S. troop base in Greenland would be much geopolitically much better security, or Denmark did not want to give up, or Greenland people did not want, or Norway would be definitely cooperate with Denmark because of your same group. It's
Well,
like,
this is a funny story. So let me just it's history, but let me just explain here the story of Greenland. Greenland was actually it was first discovered by Norwegian Vikings. I think
Really?
in the 10th century, 9th or 10th century. And then it was made part of something called Greater Norway. And then in the 12th century, Norway and Denmark went into the same union because with there wasn't a male heir to the throne in Norway. So the woman married with the male heir in Denmark, and then it became one kingdom called Denmark-Norway. And then we were one kingdom for 500 years until the end of the Napoleonic War, when Denmark was on Napoleon's side, and they'd lost. So as part of the peace agreement, the sovereignty of Norway was handed to Sweden, but at the same time, Norway's let's say overseas possessions, would include the Faroe Islands and Greenland, were remained in Danish control. So it's basically we also have like a historical relationship to Greenland. Well, this is anyway it's a digression. But the problem with Greenland is the United States, they already have full access. They can do any kind of commercial activity there. They can put out any kind of military hardware there. There's no limitations to that. So it's very interesting what they actually want. I just had a long discussion about this yesterday with the director of the Danish Institute for Defense Studies and War, and he is saying that we should take Trump seriously on what this is. He wants the United States to annex Greenland, basically. And this would, of course, be a disaster, and it will destroy any kind of confidence there is between the Nordic region and the United States. But the most important thing here, which is often left out, is what the Greenlanders want. And according to them, they don't want to be a Danish overseas territory anymore, but they don't want to be United States, part of the United States either. And then the question remains. It's a huge territory, the world's biggest island. There's only 56,000 people living there, and they can't provide for their own security. That's for sure. So in the case where they chose to be independent, they could not be independent with regards to security. So there will always have to be American troops forward placed in Greenland, and hopefully, I'm hoping that we'll find some sort of solution that maybe even Norway and Denmark can be part of this Arctic force integrated with the United States that specializes in the protection of Greenland and the patrolling of Greenland and the Arctic oceans. But these things tend to happen very slowly, and we'll just have to see how things evolve. But you never know with Trump. He's so unpredictable, and it's impossible to read him. So I'm not going to even try to say what he actually wants. But I can say that he has stirred the pot a lot, and Greenland has never been as geopolitically relevant as it has been today for decades and decades, which is actually a good thing because there's not enough focus on the Arctic in general, and it's becoming more and more strategically important regions.
I mean, Trump just interest, just interest, but it doesn't mean he practically doing it or not, So basic thing is the Greenland people, the local people, what's their feeling, their reaction? They are okay with US taking control, or belong to the USA, or they just want to remain with Denmark, or they want independent totally?
I think like 80% of the last polls I saw, I referred to the Norwegian media, I think 80% wants to be independent. But it's not possible for them to be, as we touched upon before, 100% independent. And there's also, of course, the people who wants to be part of Denmark. Some people wants to be part of the States. But I think they want to be independent, and that's probably what will line the cards moving forward. Full independence for Greenland. But as I said before, they are too small and they can't protect themselves properly, and it's too important to the security dimension in the Arctic is too important for them to be left alone. So there's always have to be some sort of troops there. But I think in general they want to be independent and they want more economic development. They feel left behind by the Danish. Basically, they feel they have a lot of resources. They have a lot of wealth hidden behind their ice sheets. and they want to extract it and start engaging in commerce. And it's quite difficult because the ice sheets there are so thick, and it's very difficult to get to extract those resources. But as the while the ice is melting, these resources will be more accessible with time.
So the population, 80%, they want to become independent, but they don't have capacity to be independent. That's the problem.
Yes.
And I'm not sure is there Denmark, they have military troop base in Greenland, or but at least the Greenland and Denmark is social, economically, politically, they are together, right? There is a Greenland member of parliament in Danish parliament, right?
Well, now actually, they had a referendum. How much was it, 2008 or something? No, pardon me if I'm not having, if I don't have this number, get these numbers correct. But they decided to be independent in everything except the foreign and security policy. And they also receive a lot of subsidies from Denmark every year. And also, as you touched upon before, there are Danish troops stationed in Greenland. There are, I think, they have three icebreakers there to patrol the coast. But from American point of view, it's not enough. And they are quite disappointed with what the Danish have brought to the table with regards to the defense of Greenland. And in the treaty that stipulates how the defense of Greenland should be organized. It's a treaty between the United States and Denmark. It said that if the Denmark doesn't have the capacity to defend Greenland, the United States will step in. And I think this is the main concern here, is that the Danish, as the rest of Europe, we have been very sloppy and negligent on our defense. And as I also said before, this is a good thing with the Trump administration because it's forcing our hand to increase this investments in the spending in defense, which is very important. And it might be part of his tactics to get Denmark to be more involved in military. Who knows? But I'm not going to exclude that he actually wants to take control of the island either. But as I also said, for all practical purposes, the Greenlanders, they can't be 100% independent. They will always have to have foreign troops on their soil. It will always be American troops. They will never let go of the Greenland, even whatever kind of a flag it's under. But I'm hoping that maybe the Danes and the Americans can find a good solution that works for both with regards to defense of Greenland, which will imply increased Danish military presence on the island. But also maybe Norway might be part of the solution and can get involved if we're allowed, because we have a history in Greenland as well, and we have a long history with Denmark. As you said initially here, we also have a great relationship with the United States, and we're one of their main security partners. So,
So by the way, Denmark, they provide any financially assistance to the U.S. military troop in Greenland, or they did not pay them?
I don't think so, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so. But they have their own military presence there, which they pay for. And after this new round of controversy around surrounding Greenland with Trump's new inauguration, they have actually already announced an investment of 1.5 billion euros into the security of the Greenland, which include new destroyers and certain military hardware, which will be coming handy for patrolling the coast. So this is the main story. It's about security. It's about the Arctic heating up, becoming a geopolitical hotspot, and a scenario for great power competition. And the United States must have a forward basing in Greenland to contain Chinese and Russian military presence to answer, let's say, in the Arctic.
Right, definitely Greenland is part of NATO security, So
Yes.
I guess probably it might be covered by NATO and expand also covered by NATO. So US may be, spending as part of NATO in Greenland. And I guess bilateral, Denmark did not pay. So I mean, we cannot say 100% because he did not pay. So if Denmark pays something, I mean, for expenses for military troop in uh, U.S. military troop in Greenland, it means U.S. was there because of the payment.
Yeah, that's also their argument that they have been defending Greenland on Denmark's behalf for half a century now, and they think they are having the short end of the stick, and they want to get paid, or they want some sort of recompensation for this military presence. And this, according to the former Arctic commissioner I spoke with, whose name is Thomas Mann, recently spoke with him, that implies a lot more resource extraction activities, but that for resource extraction to become profitable in Greenland, you need a lot of infrastructure investments. And this is where you need the big money, because Denmark doesn't have the capacity to make this kind of investments necessary to be able to make this resource extraction profitable.
Then, I mean, Denmark can say instead of payment, which means U.S. can get natural resources from Greenland. That may be, I mean, probably they can do formal agreement with the Greenland population and Denmark. I mean, Denmark is currently in charge of Greenland. As so far, the Greenland population seems they are part of Denmark, but it's still losing. It seems losing nowadays, right? So
Yeah.
and I mean, Greenland cannot also stand up themselves alone, so they need political, economically support from Denmark. I thought Denmark may have capacity, but it seems Denmark also still less capacity to completely manage Greenland.
Yes, well, but for them, from Denmark's perspective, Greenland is not the only thing that matters. They have the Baltic Sea, which is their main source of concern, Russia, and protecting the Straits of Öresund and having a military presence within the Baltic Sea, and to protect. So that's at the core territories. So they have to split up their forces somehow. One will stay in the Baltic area, while another part will still be in the defense of Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and the Arctic. And they are a small country, so it's hard for them to do. But back to where you were before, I think this is obviously the best solution, to let the political status quo of Greenland remain intact, give the United States all the rights for mineral resources extraction, all this kind of commercial contracts, even exclusivity if they demand it, and also find some sort of common solution for patrolling the coast of Greenland and having a forward military presence in the Arctic. And I think it could be done with even Norway could be part of such a program, because we're an Arctic nation. And I think this is obviously the best solution to go about. Even if the Greenlanders want their own independence, I think they would be okay with it, because they also understand that they can't be 100% independent, because the United States will never ever accept any kind of Chinese military base in Greenland or anything close to it. It will be shut down immediately. So they don't have the independence. They don't have the sovereignty with regards to these things, but they have a lot of potential, let's say, the Greenlanders. And they should basically, a lot of commercial activities are slowly but surely opening up. And in this day and age where resource competition is getting to the forefront of geopolitics, and critical minerals and all those things are getting more and more important, I think this could be actually an opportunity to revitalize revitalize the Arctic region and to put more put it on the map, let's say. And Trump has really succeeded with that, and that's also, let's say, positive from our point of view, being an Arctic nation, Norway. We want the Arctic to be in the media, in the headlines, because it's very important for us, and
Right.
our main strategic place is the Arctic. And as I said before, to defend the Svalbard Peninsula from whatever. And we also the Svalbard Peninsula is also important. It gives us the right to have territorial waters in the Barents Sea, where there's a lot of oil and gas. So, which is very, very important for the Norwegian economy.
I'm not sure how much capacity if Norwegian and Danish combine and working together for socio-economic in Greenland, because Norway also involved, as you said, historically it's part of Norway. Norwegian found it, you can say like that. So
Yeah, it's true.
then, I mean, if Danish and Norwegian combine, well, you have enough capacity to develop Greenland in terms of socio-economically, because military case, you need America.
We need America. I think, let's say, just with regular tax revenue and this kind of, no, it's not possible. You need huge investments. You need some sort of China belt and road kind of investments to get in there, and it will not be profitable in the beginning. So it will have to incur a lot of costs before this research extraction programs will become profitable. So I don't think it's nearly enough capacity. You would need some real financial muscles and some real, let's say, infrastructure specialists. And I think basically the former Arctic commissioner with whom I spoke, he was asking for a American kind of Belt and Road Initiative infrastructure development program in Greenland. And this is what it's necessary to basically commercially develop the island. You need some major investments, and of course Norway has the biggest sovereign wealth fund, but it's against the law to use the fund in such a way, so it will not be possible. And I think the goal is also here is to make it. The first investments will of course be very expensive, and it will need a lot of them, but the goal here is to make it commercially viable for the private sector to go in there and do resource extraction and sell their resources at with a profit margin without incurring too much costs.
It seems still even, Norwegian and Danish cooperation, it seems it still require many other country involvement in socio-economic development, because Greenland is so big, and military is definitely you need America, and so I mean Norwegian and Danish can cooperate, and you can initiate in terms of socio-economy. It's possible.
Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, we're basically the same culture. We can speak with each other. We understand each other languages. But Norway is probably closer to Sweden because we have a land border with them. But historically, we're more close with Denmark. But let's say there are three countries. We are called the Scandinavian countries, and we're basically more or less the same, at least from a foreigner's point of view. Of course, among ourselves, we like to point out our differences, but it's very similar. And there's also one thing we're looking for in this new geopolitical turmoil is to increase military cooperation between the Scandinavian and Nordic countries, which also might become relevant, let's say, in the defense of Greenland moving forward. But this is baby steps are being taken. But this is also, let's say, Trump has been pushing us in this direction, which is a good thing. This is something we've been trying to do for a long time, and now finally it looks like that we're getting our